Hi, I'm Ashley and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing a reading vlog that I am super excited for, and that is reading books that have the same vibes as Studio Ghibli's film Spirited Away. And I love all the Studio Ghibli films, and while Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite of theirs, Spirited Away will always have a special place in my heart. And Spirited Away was actually the first Studio Ghibli film that I ever saw. And I have such fond memories of the first time that I watched it when I was a kid. When my cousin and I were looking through movies on pay-per-view and trying to find something to watch, we just randomly stumbled upon Spirited Away, and the preview for it made me immediately interested in watching it. And so we rented it with my parents' permission, of course. And I was just completely amazed by the film, and I loved it so much. And then after that, that began my hunt of trying to find all the Studio Ghibli films, because back then, they weren't easily accessible, so I had to hunt them down at places like FYE. But anyways, let's go over my TBR for this video. So the first book I have is actually a reread, and it's The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. So I read this for the first time last year. So on the flap, it says, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea is a magical feminist retelling of a classic Korean legend, perfect for fans of Uprooted and Miyazaki's Spirited Away. And since I've already read this, I can tell you that it definitely has Spirited Away vibes. Both Spirited Away and this book have a girl who's trapped in the spirit world, and both of them lose something that is precious to them that they have to recover. And also they have to use their own wits to try to find their way home. And also they gain help from the people that they meet. And both of them also have a dragon that's connected to the water. And the next book on my list is the graphic novel Tide Song. And I chose this one because this story also follows a young girl, and she is also facing hard times that she must overcome, like Chihiro does in Spirited Away. And there is also a water dragon in this one as well. And also just the artwork on the cover and the description of the book on the back gives me Spirited Away and Studio Ghibli vibes. So the next book on my TBR for this video is Nora and the Immortal Palace. So like The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, on the inside flap of this one, it also says, perfect for fans of Arusha and The End of Time and Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. And this one is about a girl who, after a mine collapses and some of her friends were in the mine, she doesn't believe they're actually dead, and so she sets out to find them, and she ends up finding a portal to the world of the Jinn. So similar to Spirited Away, like Chihiro, she goes into another world, a fantastical world. And also in this world, I guess there is also a hotel, and the hotel is where she is invited to. And that reminds me how Chihiro ends up working at the bathhouse. And apparently in this hotel, she finds her friends. But the problem is they are now trapped at the hotel, so she has to try to somehow get them out. Which again is similar to Chihiro not staying trapped at the bathhouse together and somehow finding a way to save her parents. So the fourth book on my TBR is Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And this one is about a girl who her mirror ends up transporting her to this castle. So again, you have a girl who gets sent to another world. And again, the back of this one says, a modern, all-ages fairy tale that should appeal to fans of Studio Ghibli animations. And I also know that this one has a movie adaptation too, though I also know that the movie adaptation isn't quite out yet on DVD in America, so unfortunately I won't be able to watch that just yet. And then the last book on my list is Temple Alley Summer. And this one has ghosts, so right there you have the supernatural element, like Spirited Away has spirits, this one has ghosts. And this one has a mystery aspect to it. And the back of this one describes the story as a sweet ghost story, a mystery, an airy and unsettling story within a story. Family, the work of the great Sachiko Kashiwaba, one of Japan's most revered children's authors, is available in English translation. So those are all the books that I plan to read for this video. And in addition to reading those, I'm also going to be doing a Spirited Away themed arts and crafts, and some Spirited Away themed baking, and also doing a Spirited Away themed entry into my reading journal as well. So I'm first going to start with my reread of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. Oh, and I also want to rewatch Spirited Away because it's been a while since I've watched it, so a rewatch is needed. Hi, so it's the next day and I am back with an update. So I have read all of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and I also watched Spirited Away this morning, and that was just such a great, cozy, and relaxing way to start my day, and it just put me in such a good mood. And while watching the movie, I also did a little Spirited Away paper craft. So this was actually pretty simple to make, and the directions that came with it were super clear. So if you're looking just for like a little craft to do that doesn't take too long, I would definitely recommend this. I got this from Amazon, and I will leave the link to the product on Amazon in my description down below, in case anyone's interested. Now let's talk about The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. So this book follows 16-year-old Mina, and she lives in a town where every year an 18-year-old girl is chosen to be the sea god's bride, and she is sacrificed to the sea. And this year, the chosen bride is a beautiful girl who also happens to be the girl that Mina's brother loves. And Mina can't stand to see her brother unhappy, so she ends up sacrificing herself in place of the chosen bride. And she is then taken by the sea dragon to the spirit world and realm of the sea god. But when she gets there, she finds that all is not right in the spirit realm and that something is wrong with the sea god. This was a reread for me, and I feel like I enjoyed it more this second time around. And this book is a standalone, and it gives me Spirited Away vibes from the very beginning of the book. And the first thing that reminds me of Spirited Away in this book is that the spirit world in this book reminds me very much of the spirit world in Spirited Away. The way the spirit world is described in The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, with all the food stalls and restaurants and there not being a soul in sight, reminded me very much of the spirit world in Spirited Away. Because in Spirited Away, at the very beginning, when Chihiro and her parents first enter the spirit world, they stumble upon all the food stalls with no one around. Also, both Mina and Chihiro's motivations stem from wanting to help and save those they love and care about. Mina sacrifices herself so her brother can be happy, and she continues to strive throughout the book to solve certain problems in order to keep her family safe. And similarly, Chihiro goes from being a scaredy cat to being brave in order to save her parents so they can all go home together. And there's also a character in The Girl Beneath the Sea who reminds me very much of Haku from Spirited Away. And their situations are both very similar in that they both have missing memories. And like Chihiro forms a special bond with Haku, Mina also forms a special bond with this Haku-like character in her story as well. However, probably because Mina is 16 and Chihiro is only 10 or 12, in The Girl Beneath the Sea, there is more romance in that book. And I just found the romance moments in The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea to be super sweet and cute. And then one final similarity between The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea and Spirited Away is they both do touch upon how humans cause harm to the earth and how it is up to us to take care of the earth and be conscious of our impact upon it. And overall, if you are a fan of Spirited Away, then I would definitely recommend The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea because it has similar fantastical elements and shares the same feeling of magical coziness and whimsy. Hi, so I am back with an update. I have finished Tidesong and Nora and the Immortal Palace. So first let's talk about Tidesong. Tidesong is a cute and charming graphic novel about 12-year-old aspiring witch Sophie. And Sophie comes from a family of witches that practices water and wind magic. At the beginning of the story, Sophie gets invited to her aunt's house to study magic in preparation for her audition to the Royal Magic Academy. But when she gets there, instead of her aunt teaching her magic, she ends up giving her a bunch of chores to do. Her cousin Sage, who lives with her aunt, ends up taking Sophie under her wing and helps her with her magic. But Sophie is impatient and eager to prove herself, and as a result, a spell ends up going wrong and she ends up tangling her magic with a water dragon named Lur. And Lur, trapped in his human form, doesn't remember anything except for his name and the feel of Sophie's magic. And so it is up to Sophie and Lur to work together to untangle their magic and help recover Lur's memories. So that's the main gist of the story. So now for my thoughts, I ended up really loving this graphic novel. It was super cute and sweet and definitely gave me Spirited Away vibes. And just the art style itself gave me Studio Ghibli and Spirited Away vibes. And Sophie is definitely similar to Chihiro, where at the beginning of the story she isn't very likable and she has a very visible character flaw. And her flaw is that she is a little bit selfish because she becomes so focused on her own goals that she doesn't really think about the people around her and how her actions affect them. Like Chihiro, Sophie ends up realizing her character flaw and ends up growing by the end of the story. Like Chihiro's relationship with Haku helped her to grow, Sophie's relationship with Lur helps her in a similar way. Sophie is close to Chihiro in age, so like Haku and Chihiro's relationship, Sophie and Lur's relationship is heartwarming, precious, and has an innocent ear to it. And overall, I would definitely recommend this graphic novel, especially if you are a fan of Spirited Away. So now let's talk about Nora and the Immortal Palace. So this book follows 12-year-old Nora, who spends her days working in the mica mines. And she works in these mines in order to help provide for her mother and her 3 younger siblings. And Nora's mother wants her to stop working in the mines because it is dangerous, and Nora's father actually passed away working in the mines, and also her mother wants her to go to school and get an education. However, Nora doesn't want to quit her job in the mines because she wants to help provide for the family because she doesn't want her mother to have to take on any more shifts at her sewing job and become even more worn out than she already is. And also, she just doesn't see the importance of an education, and she'd much rather be mining mica because that will make money, and money is what makes the world go round. However, one day the mines collapse and Nora makes it out, but her best friend Faisal does not. And Nora believes that he is still alive, and so she starts digging through the debris. And then while digging through these debris and digging through the mine, she ends up stumbling into another world. A world with a pink sea and a violet sky, the world of the jinn. And she was always warned not to trust jinn because they are tricksters and they find great amusement in tormenting humans. However, despite her knowledge, she ends up finding herself trapped working at a luxury jinn hotel. And the only upside being that she has found her best friend and the other children who had gone missing. But now she must figure out how to escape the hotel while also realizing her own greed and that money isn't everything. This story very much gave me Spirited Away vibes from the very beginning. And like Chihiro, our main character Nora is transported to a world of supernatural beings. In Spirited Away, the spirits look down upon humans. And similarly, in Nura, the jinn have no respect for humans and find great humor in tricking them. While Chihiro is the only human in the spirit world and finds a friend and ally in Haku and other characters, Nura is not the only human trapped in the jinn world. She also has her best friend and other children with her as well. And her best friend and these other children help her try to escape. And at first it does seem like all the jinn are against Nora, but she does end up finding an ally among them. In addition, Nora, like Chihiro at the beginning of the book, is also kind of unlikable, and she also has a major character flaw that she ends up realizing and working on throughout the book. And Nora's flaw is that she is selfish and greedy and tends to not think about others when she is trying to reach her own goals, and tends to become so focused on her own goals that she forgets about the people around her and how her actions might affect them. And Nora's friends also call her out on her greed throughout the story as well. And this theme of greed is seen throughout the book. Another example being the owner of the hotel only caring about getting as much money as he can, and in order to do so, he exploits children. Overall, if you enjoyed Spirited Away, I would definitely check out Nora and the Immortal Palace. Hi, so I am back and I have read all this book, Temple Alley Summer, so let's talk about it a little bit. So this book follows 5th grader Kazu, and one day this girl named Akari just shows up in his class, and everyone, all his other classmates, just act like she's always been there. And even his best friend is like, hey, what are you talking about? Like, this is Akari, like, you've known her longer than me, and she lives right down the street from you. But Kazu is certain that this girl has never been there before, and he's convinced she is a ghost, and he is determined to get down to the bottom of exactly what is going on. However, during his journey to uncover the truth, he goes from being suspicious to Akari to caring about her and wanting to protect her. So I enjoyed this one. It definitely had more of a ghost story feeling to it than the other books I've read so far for this video. However, while it does start off a little bit spooky, it's never like over the top spooky and pretty much just remains cozy spooky throughout. The main character, Kazu, goes through character development similar to Chihiro because his desire to protect Akari pushes him to grow, just like Chihiro's relationship with Haku and her desire to save her parents causes her to grow. And then there are also just fun and cute illustrations throughout the book as well, such as this one. Also, at the end of the book, in the About the Author section, I learned that this author, Sachiko Kashiwaba, that one of her other novels actually influenced Spirited Away. And that novel was The Marvelous Village Veiled in Mist, which I tried searching for it on Amazon, but I couldn't find it. And I did find it on eBay, but all the copies come from Japan and they're like $50. So I don't know, like maybe it's never been released in America before, but there are English copies available from Japan. But I just thought that was like really cool that she actually wrote the novel that inspired Spirited Away, which is what this whole video is about, is reading books with Spirited Away vibes. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this book. Definitely worth a read if you're looking for a ghost story that's spooky but also remains cozy and is just really cute. Check this one out. So let's talk about Lonely Castle in the Mirror. So this book follows middle schooler Kokoro, and Kokoro had just started 7th grade, but she only went to school for a month before she stopped going because of bullying. So this book takes place in Japan, and the school year there begins in April and ends in March. And it has 3 semesters. And this book, similarly, is divided into 3 parts: the first semester, 2nd semester, and 3rd semester. So our story starts in May, and Kokoro only went to school for a month, so she's been like out of school for about a month. And she's just kind of been spending her time at home, kind of like in a daze and not sure how she should handle the situation that she's in, because she was being bullied, but she doesn't really know how to deal with that, and she doesn't really feel like she can explain it to her parents. And her mom has been like trying to help her in the best way that she can, as even trying to get her to go to an alternate school. But Kokoro just like, these feelings are so overwhelming that she just can't do it. And so one day when she is at home, her mirror in her bedroom starts glowing, and then Kokoro ends up touching it and it ends up pulling her into it, and she ends up in this other world where there's a castle, and she meets this little girl who's wearing a wolf mask. And when this first happens, Kokoro runs away because she is scared and has no idea what's going on. But then the next day, her mirror ends up glowing again, so she touches it and she gets pulled into this world again. And she meets the girl in the wolf mask again, but there's also 6 other kids there, and they're all around the same age as Kokoro. They're all middle schoolers, ranging from 7th to 9th grade. And the little girl in the wolf mask tells them that they have been chosen to participate in a hunt for this key, and the key is hidden somewhere in the castle, and if they can find the key will unlock the wishing room, so whoever finds the key gets to use it to make a wish come true. And of course all the kids, including Kokoro, are super skeptical of this because it seems too good to be true. And the girl in the wolf mask, who goes by the Wolf Queen, tells them that they have from May until March 30th to try to find this key, and if they don't find the key by then the castle will just end up shutting down and it'll be game over. But if someone finds the key before them and makes a wish, then the castle will also shut down whenever that wish is made. So Kokoro ends up coming back to the castle day after day. First she's just curious, but then she actually becomes friends with the kids, and we learn that all these kids are there because they're going through different hardships. So throughout their almost year at the castle, we get to see Kokoro interact with them all and learn about all of them, and they all end up like helping each other, and it's just like a very heartwarming read. And this one was definitely my favorite book of all the books I've read for this video. It was just so captivating and powerful. And you do have like the fantasy element here, of course, because you have these kids getting whisked away to a castle by this mysterious little girl in a wolf mask, but also it just reads very much like a contemporary, because a lot of it is just about the kids getting to know each other and becoming friends, and at a certain point they all decide like, we're not gonna, if any of us find the key, we're not gonna make a wish until March 30th because we all want to spend as much time together at this castle as we can, because the castle becomes like a sort of sanctuary for all of them. And there was also a mystery aspect to this book as well, because while I was reading it, I was trying to figure out exactly like what was going on with this castle, what was going on with the Wolf Queen, and it also like pulled in different fairy tales as well into it. And this definitely like has Ghibli and Spirited Away vibes, I would say, just because of like the fantastical element of it, and it just kind of feels like a Ghibli movie. And like Chihiro, Kokoro also grows as a person throughout this book, but I also feel like she becomes more comfortable in her own skin, and in that way she's kind of similar to Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle. And overall, I would say if you like Spirited Away and just Studio Ghibli movies in general, I would definitely read this one. I know there's also a movie adaptation as well, which I haven't seen yet because it hasn't been released yet in America, but I believe it's coming out sometime in September. So I will definitely be watching that. So we have reached the end of this video. If you have made it to this point, thank you so much for watching. And I am just going to quickly go over all the books that I read during this video, and then we'll say goodbye until next time. So the first book I read for this video, and the one that I feel like is most similar to Spirited Away, was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. And this one just gave me so many Spirited Away vibes. You had, again, a water dragon, and you had a main character establishing a relationship with the male love interest that was very similar to Chihiro and Haku's relationship. The setting with the spirit world and how it's described reminded me very much of the spirit world in Spirited Away. You have main characters who both lose things that are important to them and have to get them back. So yeah, definitely, if you love Spirited Away, you have to check out The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. And then the second book I read for this video was the graphic novel Tide Song. This one was just a very cute story. The art style definitely gave me Studio Ghibli vibes. And again, this one reminded me of Spirited Away because you have a water dragon, and then you have the water dragon and the main character forming a special bond. And the third book I read for this video was Nora and the Immortal Palace. And again, this one you have a girl who ends up going to a supernatural world, but instead of spirits, you have Jinn in this one. And again, the main character is forced to realize her faults and she ends up becoming a better person in the end. And the fourth book I read for this video was Temple Alley Summer. And this one I feel like had a different vibe from all the other books because it had more of a ghost story feeling to it. But at the same time, it was a little bit spooky, but it still remained like cozy spooky, similar to Spirited Away. And the last book I read, and my favorite of the books I read for this video, was Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And this one I just loved so much. I loved that it had like a little bit of fantasy to it, but it also was just a very captivating and powerful story. Kids that are facing like harsh times in life and are just trying to make it through life. So those are all the books I read in this video. Let me know down below if you read any of these, what you thought of them, if you're interested in reading any of them. Thank you so much for watching, and bye!